In Miami, the 1993 season opened with high hopes of realizing a Super Bowl dream. Instead, injury sent the team reeling. But while Dan Marino was too often merely a spectator, the Dolphins still managed the spectacular.
Berg out of the shotgun, back he goes to throw, lofts it in the air, they tip it in the air. Dolphins get it for a touchdown.
New faces like Keith Byers boldly took charge. And old favorites proved they hadn't lost a step.
Here's the play fake. DeBerg in the pocket, going deep up the middle.
It was a season which saw the Dolphins not only fight for every yard, but earn a new measure of respect. Their young defense is poised to punish, and the master of coaching is determined to build on what the Dolphins accomplished for most of '93.
Cuts for the near side, 30, 35, 40, 40, 50. He's in the open. He's got to go. He's at the 25, the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Miami.
Holy finale. Touchdown, Ocho.
Marino drops the throw in the pocket. Has time. Dumps it across the middle. Caught by Jackson. He breaks down.
Whoa,
He's in
baby.
the score.
Tear off that 88, Keith. You look like Superman on that play.
To a man, they're ready to face the challenge head on. And they have the talent to turn the corner.
He fires for the corner of the end zone. It is caught for a touchdown.
1993 was a year of exceptional effort and achievement. A late season skid also made it a year of bitter disappointment. Be assured, however, that the Dolphins' future is as bright as their history is grand. For 1993 was a tale of two seasons. In the season opener against the Colts, it didn't take long for the Dolphins to take control.
Back he goes to throw. In the pocket. He throws for the end zone. Jackson holds onto it for a touchdown.
Still, the Dolphins trailed with under a minute to play when Dan Marino served notice that this team had unexpected weapons and exceptional grit.
Touchdown.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
What a money drive.
2 weeks later in Buffalo, the Dolphins traded money for a mugging.
You want to be in the NFL to play in games like today. Fierce, hard-hitting, a lot of contact. Put the women and children to bed early because it's going to be dangerous out here.
We got to make our own fire, baby. We got to make our own fire. We got to hang together, support each other. When they make a play, just hang in there, and then we make the plays that win the football game. Let's do it, baby. Our day. Let's go.
Don Shula's defense heard and heeded, then put a hurt on the Buffalo offense.
Back at about the 22-yard line. Brian Cox is in on top of him.
And while emotions were running high, the Dolphin offense was running free as a couple of new wideouts led the attack.
Here's the snap. Back he goes. In the pocket. Throws deep near side. Man down there. It's going to score. Touchdown. Fryer, 5-yard line. He scores. Irving Fryer. Great move on the corner.
Great protection. That enabled him to throw that ball down there. Let's go.
First, great pass protection gave Miami the lead. Then, a great passer used some improvisation.
He acts like he's going to run with the football. He does, and he scores. Marino gets into the end zone right at the flag.
The best one I've seen in a while. That's a great hell of a job.
2 interceptions and 4 sacks were more than enough to give the Dolphins their second win and give the rest of the NFL an idea of what Miami's defense was capable of.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby, that's the way to play some ball. That's the way to play some ball.
That's the way to work, baby.
You know what I'm saying? You gotta work like that.
And in a word, work is what they did. From Marco Coleman and Brian Cox to Jeff Cross, Dwight Hollier, and when healthy, John Offerdahl, the Dolphins had the physiques to get physical and the dispositions for destruction. It was a simple question of ways and means. If you got in their way, they got mean. To a man, they always got their man, whether by superb solitary efforts from Larry Webster or tenacious team tackling. free agent acquisition Mike Golick stepped in and stepped up, while Chuck Klingbeil helped solidify the defensive line. And while the men up front provided a solid first line of defense, corners J.B. Brown and Troy Vincent were the perfect complement in the secondary. In just his second year, Vincent has established himself as a premier cover man, while Brown led the Dolphins with 5 interceptions. Next season, expect a good thing to get even better, thanks to the acquisition of safeties Gene Atkins and Michael Stewart. When the Dolphins need a stop, one man is certain to answer the call.
Come on, somebody get in his face!
For the second year in a row, Brian Cox led the Dolphins in tackles and toughness. A relentless force, Cox has the speed and savvy to be both a consummate pass rusher and punishing tackler, and his uncanny knack for turnovers makes him a threat on every snap.
Take away!
There's Aikman rolling to his right, swings a little pass out, intercepted by Cox. Cox at the 50.
Cox is more than an exciting player by nature. He's a leader by example. And with enthusiasm to match his prodigious talent, you can be sure the Dolphin defense will be a unit to watch next season. In Week 5 against the Redskins, the Dolphins continued to display prime-time talent as they jumped out to a 14-point lead and never looked back.
Here's Tony Martin with a football. He's going to go the distance to the 20, down to the 15, gets a block at the 5. He's in for the score.
At 3-1, the Dolphins were rolling. And a week later in Cleveland, they appeared to be on their way to another easy win.
He looks, he fires for the corner of the end zone. Touchdown for the Dolphins goes to, what'd I tell you, Mark Ingram.
But just as pretty passes were becoming little more than prosaic predictions, disaster struck. Dan Marino was down, and almost inconceivably, out. The quarterback who personified not only superstardom but super stamina has suffered a ruptured Achilles tendon. And while it quickly became clear that Marino would be lost for the season, the question became, was the season lost for the Dolphins?
The Dolphins' pressure beginning to get.
The answer was as quick as it was decisive. Thanks to relentless defensive pressure, the Dolphins transformed losing Marino into an opportunity for discovering themselves. It was a team together with a gritty offensive line giving untested quarterback Scott Mitchell time to throw and the receivers a chance to grow.
A lot of noise. Mitchell takes the snap. He's going to throw the ball in the end zone. It is caught for a touchdown by Tony Martin.
Whoa! What a great play!
Tony Martin's clutch catch gave the Dolphins the lead, but it was the determined defense which gamely held on to preserve the win. The Dolphins' 28-14 victory raised their record to 4-1, but without Dan Marino, it would take something truly exceptional to raise their spirits. When Hall of Fame guard Larry Little was inducted into the Dolphin Honor Roll, it symbolized the continuum of talent the Robbie family had brought to Miami. Joe Robbie's vision helped make the Dolphins the winningest franchise in sports since 1970. And that tradition is now in the capable hands of new owner Wayne Huizinga. On-the-field success continues with All-Pro tackle Richmond Webb and Pro Bowl guard Keith Sims. And it was definitely some new faces who stepped in and up to defeat the Colts in Game 6.
From the 17-yard line, here's Stark's left-footed kick, end over end, wobbly upfield, grabbed by McDuffie at the 30, into the middle he goes, 35, hurdles a tackler at the 40, he gets a block, 50, 45, 40, down to the 35, to the 30, down to the 20, down to the 10, the 5, touchdown.
Rookie O.J. McDuffie started the scoring frenzy with a jaw-dropping display of moves and moxie. But the rookies were just getting warmed up.
Going to Kirby, hold the middle, 10.
Enter Terry Kirby, running.
It's in for the score. Mitchell will go to the shotgun on 3rd and 8. Back he goes to throw. The big guy pumps, fires across the middle. Open, Kirby, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Miami.
The Dolphins' 41-point explosion raised their record to 5-1 and is proof positive that the AFC's top-rated offense is a threat to score anytime it touches the ball. Quite simply, the Dolphins' attack, even without Marino, was without peer.
10 down to the 5. He gets in for the touchdown. Keith Byers scores his second.
And when Keith Byers wasn't scoring, Terry Kirby was.
Fought at the 25. Kirby down at the 10, down to the 5. He scores. Kirby gets into the end.
And while new faces in the backfield were making their marks, Irving Fryer took a backseat to no one, using poise and polish to earn a trip to the Pro Bowl. And Mark Ingram, who made even impossible catches seem routine. Even without Marino, the Dolphins incredibly had 5 different receivers with more than 500 yards receiving. Irving Fryer led Miami with more than 1,000 yards in the air, while Keith Byers became the first running back to catch a pass in 100 consecutive games. Terry Kirby mixed the run and the pass for over 1,200 total yards and a Dolphin rookie record 75 receptions. The Dolphins' offense is doubtless dangerous, but part of the excitement isn't just the big play, but the big heart, which never surrenders.
Here's the pitch. Byers wants to throw a pass. It is caught for a touchdown. In the end zone, Irving Fryer.
Despite the spectacular season, these new Dolphins have only just begun in Miami. And with the return of Dan Marino, Miami should be the offense of the 90s. By Game 7 against the Chiefs, the Dolphins were ready to put it all together. First, Miami used a combination of fronts and ferocity to brutalize the Chiefs.
Strips of a tackle, and another fumble. The Dolphins pick it up. Here's the handoff. Go! Williams is hit. Fumble! Dolphins have the football at the 12-yard line. That's the second time that Williams has fumbled.
After forcing 6 fumbles, it was the offensive's turn to explode for the second week in a row.
Byers back in the backfield. Here's Mitchell. He's in trouble. Breaks out of it. Runs to the near side. Fires. Caught by Fryer at the 5. He's in for a touchdown. Irving Fryer. Here's the snap. Back he goes. Looks right. Throws to Byers. Takes the tackle at the 5. He's in for the touchdown. Keith Byers gets into the end zone right at the... Here's Mitchell back to throw again. Looks left. Byers, it is caught at the 38. Good move. Pull out the 40, the 50.
They're not going to catch him.
He's going to go 20, down to the 15, to the 10, the 5, touchdown. 77 yards for Mark Ingram. Boy, did he put a move on that defensive back out there.
The Dolphins themselves were moving toward the playoffs. At 6-1, they looked almost invincible. But while the fans had faith, fortune proved fickle.
This is what it's all about now. This is to see what we're made out of. We got to win a second half. To get to 6-1. 6-1. We're not going to blow it here. These guys have had leads. They've blown it. Let's go. Now we got to do something to make it happen. We got to offense. We got the football. We got to score. Defense. We got to have takeaways. Let's go. Let's go.
Mitchell again into the shotgun. Need to get it up to the 45, 10 yards. Back he goes to throw. In the pocket. He's throwing deep. Fryer's down there. He's got it 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Dolphins. And there are no flags.
Fryer's catch and run was a thing of beauty, but the Dolphins' joy didn't last forever.
Come on, defense, get in there. Pressure, pressure.
The loss to the Jets was a precursor to a late-season slide which saw Miami ravaged by injuries and the victims of the vagaries of the fates of football.
All day to count the house, going deep for the end zone. Everybody back there. See where it's going to go. The ball is tipped in the air. It is caught for a touchdown.
And that really just stuck a knife in the heart of the Miami Dolphins.
Still, the Dolphins never surrendered, and in the season's final game, Miami still held the key to the playoffs in their hands. Trailing the Patriots by 3 points late in the fourth quarter, the Dolphins dug deep and found the grit for the go-ahead score.
Kirby breaking tackles, gets into the end zone. The Dolphins take the lead, 23-20.
The lead didn't last, and only a clutch kick by Pete Stoyanovich forced overtime. But in overtime, a single lapse ultimately cost the Dolphins a playoff spot.
Bledsoe back to throw, pumps once, goes deep, got a man down there, and it's Timpson, touchdown.
It was a bitter end to a season which promised better things. But, truth be told, it was also a season of exceptional performances, like the resurgence of Steve DeBerg, who proved a valuable backup to Dan Marino. In his first action as a Dolphin, DeBerg led Miami to 2 late-scoring drives and a win over the Patriots.
The throw in the pocket, fires across the middle, it is caught by Byers. He gets in for the score. He hurdled over the tackler. There's the handoff, check it, play fake. DeBerg rolls back to his left, throwing deep, man down there. Touchdown for the Dolphins, Irving Fryer.
4 days later, Miami traded the Blue Skies for a blizzard in a Thanksgiving showdown with the world champion Cowboys, where despite treacherous conditions, the Dolphins were undaunted.
DeBerg starts from his 23. On the snap, give off to Keith Byers, counter, over the left side, got a hole, he's in the open, he might go.
Oh my, what an effort by Keith Byers, a phenomenal effort by Byers, and Rick, I'm inclined to think he got in the end zone there, did he not?
He did get in the end zone, it is a touchdown.
Still, Miami trailed late in the fourth quarter, where once again, a little daring-do did the trick.
DeBerg out of the shotgun. Here's the snap, back he goes to throw, in the pocket, across the middle. Here's Byers, down the near side, runs out of bounds.
Oh my
Now they've got a
word.
shot at it. Now they've got a shot at it.
It was supposed to be a routine field goal. Instead, it became the wildest sequence of the entire season.
About a 39-yard field goal attempt. 15 seconds on the board, Peterson to hold. Here's the snap, set down, kick is blocked. Never did get it up in the air. Never did get it up in the air. The ball rolls free. It rolls free in the end zone. The Dolphins fall on top of it after it was touched by a Dallas player, and Miami is arguing.
How about this?
Now let's see what the officials are going to call it. With 3 seconds, the clock is stopped on the board. This is going to be an interesting interpretation. The officials in a big confab down in the end zone. Now here is the call.
The kicking team gets awarded the ball at the spot in the field of play, first down.
Oh, boy.
Well, you heard it.
3 seconds on the clock. And they're still trying to clear off a space down there for Stoyo to plant his foot. All right, waiting the snap. It's Peterson. Here it is. Sets it down. Kick is up. It's good, and the Dolphins win the ball game.
Yes,
the Dolphins
sir.
win 16-14.
All right.
Oh, Toledo. All right, all right.
All
Dolphins win the
right.
ball game 16-14.
The Dolphins come into Texas Stadium and kick some Cowboy butt. I love it.
While the win over the Cowboys was mayhem, the season's biggest occurred 3 weeks before, and it was more like magic. On November 14, 1993, the Dolphins traveled to Philadelphia not just looking for a win, but chasing a dream. As head coach Don Shula, with 324 career wins, was poised to become the NFL's all-time winningest head coach. In a brutal display of smash-mouth football, the Dolphins' defense stuffed the Eagles early.
We're going to run an MT, because he's going to set up hard to try to get me, because I need him in the back.
But the grand master of coaching was busy readying the offense.
It's there, because Higgins got his
He
guy
said that
now.
you fell down and Fridge had you outside.
I got my man.
You got through and got your man. Stay on your feet. Find a hole on it. What'd you do? Did you look for the eye? Did you look first on the 63 arrow?
No.
You looked right away in
Right
there.
now, the guy was coming right in my face. How much more? 1-3? No, 63.
Let's be patient now. We gotta
OJ was in there.
gotta be patient. Take what we get.
as the tailbacks. In motion to the near side goes Jackson into play fake. Mitchell back to throw. Looking right, throwing deep down there is Ingram. He's got it at 20. He's going to score out of the 10 to the 5. And he didn't quite get in. And we're going to Here's the snap. Mitchell looks into the middle. Steps into the pocket. He throws in the end zone. Man open, touchdown. Goes to Terry Kirby. Kirby picks up his second touchdown as a receiver.
Watch the onside kick to start with. No penalties on the kickoff return. Use your head as far as coming out or staying in with the football.
Oh, now.
Then we need a drive on offense. We need a drive. We got to put it together. We got to start running with the ball, pass protecting, making plays. Defense shut out in the second half.
Trailing the Eagles by a point as the second half began was not cause for concern. But when Scott Mitchell was forced from the game, every point became crucial. And the Dolphins made sure that only one team would score in the second half.
Stoyanovich hits it. It's up there. It is good. So Stoyo gives the Dolphins a 5-point lead. 19-14. Miami with 3:36 to go.
Watch the hook lateral. Watch the hook lateral. Keep the ball in. They're going to try to keep the ball in play.
With a 5-point lead and only minutes to play, many coaches would have relaxed. Don Shula redoubled his effort. And when they needed it most, the Dolphins played their best.
This is number 325, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Coach Shula being mobbed as he becomes the all-time winningest coach in the history of the National Football League, breaking the record of the immortal George Halas.
Be assured Shula will add to that career total, not just because he loves the game, but because the game and his team love him.
I think Danny, 100 and some of those victories that I'm, got on my record. But Danny, thank you. And everybody else. A hell of a day. It's one I'll never forget. And let's enjoy this, and then New England next, baby.
You got to make dinner for all of them. We're going to do that.
Good, Danny. Thank you. You're a big part of all that, baby.
Good check, baby. Good check.
You can lie to us. We got all the victories we need now. Get this off our back. It was getting heavy for a while, but this is from every player on the team, and this is going to be a bronze sculpture with this, the last ball of the field, being on top.
Thank you, John.
Hi, I'm Steve Sable. What's in store for the Dolphins for next year? Well, the return of a healthy Dan Marino should make Miami's '94 season the NFL's version of Back to the Future. And with some newfound defensive help, Dolphin fans are hoping it's back to the Super Bowl. And that will be the first time in a decade. The Dolphins call the AFC East home. And as long as they do, they've got to get past Buffalo. Here's a peek at how they're trying to do just that.
Man does not live by Dan Marino alone.
The Dolphins obviously rise and fall on the arm of Dan Marino and the Achilles tendon of Dan Marino.
Confused? Well, you're not alone. After racing to a 9-2 start, the Dolphins looked like a lock for the playoffs last season, even without Danny Boy. But a season-ending 5-game losing streak reaffirmed Marino's importance. Still, the question for this season isn't how Marino will play, but how he connects with his new teammates. Second-year man O.J. McDuffie has proven big play potential, while Mark Ingram appears to have rediscovered his love of playing without losing a step. And of course, Irving Fryer figures to improve on his All-Pro numbers of a year ago. But perhaps the key to the Dolphins' already potent offense lies in the relationship between Marino and Terry Kirby.
I'd love to see him working with Terry Kirby, a second-year Terry Kirby. He's a tall back. He's 6'2", maybe 6'2 and a half, He's pretty big. He's about 220. He's very versatile. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's got very good hands. And coming out of the backfield, has the ability to make those soft fingertip catches, which are just critical on third down. Third down is so critical in the NFL that if he gets in sync with Dan Marino, I think it'd just be a magnificent thing to see.
Of course, running backs have to be able to run the ball as well. Enter Mark Higgs.
You can't just say, let's totally forsake the running game and not try anymore. I think you got to keep pounding it at people, because the hallmark of any good team, I don't remember many great teams ever, flat out couldn't run the ball, and that's why they have to keep trying.
In Higgs, Miami has a potential 1,000-yard rusher. Don't let his diminutive size fool you. Higgs actually uses it to his advantage by hiding behind the massive left side of the Dolphin line. And when a bigger back is required, Keith Byars more than ably obliges. So why didn't the Dolphins win it all last season?
I think last year was a function of injuries on defense that prevented them from, they had a great start and they just completely lost it at the end.
Actually, it was their defense which lost it. But Miami has moved to remedy that situation.
I think that they have helped themselves basically in trading Oliver and Williams for Stewart and Atkins.
And though he's not a superstar name, Gene Atkins may be just what the Dolphins need.
My view is formed in part by Jim Mora. Mora told me that this is a guy who you build a defense around, not in terms of, mega stardom, but just, the quality, good guy, high caliber type of player and person that you need.
Another thing the Dolphins need is for Marco Coleman to return to the form which made him an all-rookie performer 2 seasons ago. And of course, Brian Cox will continue to lead the defense by example. Big plays will take a team a long way, but big mistakes drop them even harder. So while the Dolphins consistently made big plays, they seem to shoot themselves in the foot just as frequently. Physical ailments eventually heal. Self-inflicted flubs can haunt a team forever. So what's the prognosis for the Dolphins?
The more things change, the more they stay the same. The Dolphins look like a second-place team to me in that division that could be a first-place team if A, they solve their defensive collapses, and B, win at Buffalo, which they haven't been bad at. And I think that going into this year, if they are able to keep Marino healthy and to play pretty consistent defense, which is what we say every year about the Dolphins, they ought to get home field in the playoffs, and after that, who knows what happens.
And because Super Bowl 29 will be played at Joe Robbie Stadium this year, don't be surprised if Don Shula and the rest of the Dolphins aren't the first team to hold the Lombardi Trophy on their home field.